I've got 23 full sheets on here, plus the cart itself is about 2.5 sheets, a little more than 2.5. This Primcore Plus 18 mil is the lightest 18 mil that I know of on the market at 49 pounds. But still, even at 49 pounds with 11 sheets, that adds up pretty quick. So to be able to pull it away from the wall, it's time to build a wheeled plywood cart. I just took delivery of a lot of plywood. Even though it's lightweight plywood, there's a lot of it. So altogether, it's going to weigh quite a bit. I designed an A-frame cart, wheels on the corners, and then a set of wheels in the middle. And these wheels are all 5-inch, 500, 550 per wheel. I've set aside 3 sheets of 18 mil ply to make this cart. I'm not going to use any dimensional lumber, no 2x4, 2x6. My workflow is to rip my sheet goods first and cross-cut later. I rarely cross-cut full sheets. In this case, most of my ripping is going to be narrow rips. And I do have a couple of cross-cuts that I'm going to do on the full sheets just because of the layout. So in this case, I'm going to do a single rip, and then I'm going to cross-cut 2 full sheets and that rip. And then I'll step back and do the narrow rips. Step 1, done. The 3 sheets of plywood are broken down from their big pieces to slightly smaller. And now it's time to start breaking those pieces down. I have 2 methods for doing narrow rips. One is to use the track saw and the parallel guides with the narrow rip setup. And the other method is to rip slightly wider pieces. So if I have 400 millimeter rips I want to do, then I might plan on doing a 1200 millimeter rip plus a little bit for blade loss or the kerf cut, and then take that piece to the table saw and do my narrow rips with that. In this case, I'm going to do something a little different, and I can't film it. Because of patents, I'm not allowed to show the tool, a picture, or a video, or who the company is, or anything like that. And so I'm going to turn the camera off and use that to do these rips. Because I have to say, even this very first generation, this beta version, is wonderful, very fast, and the best way that I have ever had to cut narrow rips. Once the time comes that it is ready for the market, the Smart Woodshop fam are going to be the first to know about it. I finished all the narrow ripping, so I put away the beta tool, and now the cameras can be turned back on. I will say in beta testing, it's really handy to do lots of work. I did quite a bit of ripping with it, and I made 3 errors. The error was the same error 3 times. So from that, I realized that that's an error that, though it was my fault, the tool needs to be adjusted a bit to minimize that error, because it was the use of the tool that allowed me to think I was making one cut when I was actually making another. So it was a good learning experience, and that's what beta testing is all about, to get those things dialed in real world applications and then improve the tools before they're made available. Against that wall is just over 2.5 sheets of 18 mil ply ripped down. Most of it is cut to length. These pieces and these pieces here are to the proper width and length. I'm going to go to the miter saw and finish up the cutting. Once that's done, then it will be ready for assembly. Even though I designed it, having the plans in PDF form on my phone is really handy. 84 degrees, which takes a little math on any miter saw. As any carpenter knows, the miter saw is actually off by 90 degrees. When it says 0, you're actually cutting a 90-degree cut. So I know that 84 is 6 degrees off 90. So if this is 90, I'll come over to 6 to get 84. And the length is 1200 from long point to long point. So that's going to be from the top edge here to the bottom edge there. I'll set up the stop on the saw once I get it exactly how I want it. I'm back from a week-long road trip. Just before going, I got all the parts prepped, cut, and ready to assemble. Now I have to remind myself where I'm at. I am using 1¼ inch screws to screw together 2 pieces of 18 mil. If I used 1½ inch, of course, that would poke through just a little bit. So I find 1¼ inch is a size I use a lot, being an 18 millimeter plywood shop primarily. The plywood cart's getting really close to being done. I'm going to be able to flip it over here and load it up very shortly. I've made a couple of changes that I hope work out. And if I do decide to do a set of plans of this, these changes will be on those plans. This strip here on both sides, there's one there and one here, I added. So this wasn't in the plan. I got to thinking about the load this is going to carry with a lot of plywood on both sides, and I have 3 A-frames. So the bearing points have always been the 6 wheels are going to be right at those bearing points. Connecting them though, I wanted to come up with a way to make sure that they work together, that they were really strong. So I created almost a box beam. So I've got the shelf that the plywood is going to rest on, where the load's going to come down on. I have the basically the kick. This originally was just going to be the lip. So there's about an inch here where that's going to keep the plywood from kicking out. It's going to be leaning over at that about 6 degrees, and this will keep, you know, if I'm rolling around, if it's sliding off. Instead of that just being a toe kick, I turned it into a structural member. All of these screws here that you see, I've laid them out to stitch together the shelf and this mount for the wheels and this here. So I've created again, a 3-sided, I don't want to call it a box beam. It's not quite a box. It's a J shape. But by stitching it into this piece all the way across and all the way across there, then I'm going to create a really rigid support. And then the wheels themselves are mounted directly on each of the A-frames. Using my Construction Master app, I took my overall dimension of 1800 millimeters and divided it by about 10. And of course, that's an easy one, 180. But that does allow me to keep changing the number until I get it just right, because not every time is it a nice number like that. I just cut a piece of scrap on the miter saw at 180 and then just started my layout from the end, working my way through, making a mark. And then for the step down, I knew that we're going into 18 mil ply, so I want it to be 9 millimeters down. And then on the other side, the same thing. Of course, I have the lip, so I calculated that in. That gave me a nice straight line, and then my layout, and then everything will look good because it'll be spaced properly. And also by having these lines right at going into the center of the plywood, that'll at least help me to minimize any plywood splitting or running it off top or bottom.
Satisfied. My weakness comes and goes. My weakness comes and goes. I'm reaching out for the easy high. Please fortify this strength of mine. My weakness comes and goes. My weakness comes and goes.
Now the fun part and the ultimate test. Time to load it and see if it works.
My body aches to be satisfied. My weakness comes and goes. My weakness comes and goes. I'm reaching out for
The plywood cart is finished, it's loaded, and best of all, it actually works. It works well. When I was designing this thing, my concern was, could I move it around? The goal with this is to keep the material, particularly the material I use the most, sheet goods, so that I can move them around, move them closer to the work, but also get access to it and not have it just all stacked. Plus in this shop, brand new shop, brand new drywall, I'm not hanging anything on the walls, and I don't really want to lean stuff against the walls because I want to keep it in really good condition. And this allows me to do that. But more important than that, the Smart Wood Shop is mobile, portable. So even in here, I want to move things around sometimes to put vehicles in different spots, and I've got different projects. I've got 23 full sheets on here, plus the cart itself is about 2.5 sheets, a little more than 2.5. This Primcore Plus 18 mil is the lightest 18 mil that I know of on the market. at 49 pounds. But still, even at 49 pounds with 11 sheets, that adds up pretty quick. And then I think the 1/2 inch is 36 pounds. Still, all in all, there's a lot of weight here that I need to be able to move around. Putting 6 heavy-duty casters on, I think, was absolutely essential. I think if I were bearing this all down on the 4 corners, it would not be near as easy to move. For now, I have it stored over in this corner. This seems to be the best place for me, but I want to be able to get at my 6 mil and my 12 mil, and also my 18 mil on this side. So to be able to pull it away from the wall, that's pretty easy, and I can get at it and then load the sheets that I need without having to have it stacked up. So I've got it set up so that for now, all the 18 mils on that side, so I can just pull the top sheet off. Over here, I do have to go through 3 sheets of 6 mil before I can get to the 12 mil. But that's not too bad. I think that I will be able to just pull these out and then slide that. I may add a couple of pickets on this side with drop-in pockets so that I can tip out a few sheets to get at the others and kind of hold it in place. But I would want those removable so that I could easily load and unload lots if I've got a bigger project, like a cabinet build or something like that. I also have these shelves in the middle where I can put rips of different sizes so I can keep them separated, and that'll evolve as time goes on. Now I still have lots of little parts, some dowels, some small pieces of plywood, some small pieces of hardwood, some metal, different materials that I do want to have in the shop. So my plan is to build a smaller cart with bins, put that on 4 casters, and then I can load that up with the small stuff and just reserve this for pretty much longer stuff. Shorter stuff like this here would go in that other cart. If you'd like to get a detailed set of plans to build a smart bench, a smart station, any of the accessories that work with the smart system, including the smart cart, the smart router table, the cradles that hold your benchtop equipment, the crosscut jig, the panel rig, on and on it goes, and more accessories coming as time goes on. For the Smart Wood Shop itself, there's a link in the description of this video down below. Mahalo for hanging out with me in the Smart Wood Shop.